Yo, what's up everybody? How's it going? Patch 7.33 just released, and honestly, it's a bit of a wild one. I want to give you an overview over what's in that patch, but I don't want to dive too deep into all of the very specific hero changes. Instead, we're going to focus only on what's immediately important for you to play the new patch properly. What do you need to know to survive? Basically. That's maybe a bit dramatic, but that's the idea. So let's have a look at the new patch, see what's in it, and then hopefully you will have a better understanding of what to expect. I will try to keep this as short as possible. There will be other channels, like for example Perch, that will do very detailed and good analyses of each of the individual changes, but our goal today is just the really big picture stuff, the really important stuff. All right, cool. So we are on the same page. Now, let's get started with the first, most obvious, and probably also most important thing, and that is the map as a whole. So the Dota map as a whole has been reworked, and it is now much bigger. You can see that there's much more space in general. It's just a much bigger map. They say it's about 40% bigger. Now, what's important here is that those 40% are on the outskirts of the map. So it's basically an additional ring, an additional lane around the entire map that exists now. Now, this is not a lane in the way that there are creeps that walk along it, but it's more of a jungle area. And well, in fact, it is a variety of different jungle areas, but we will get to that. The inner parts of the map are the same in size, but even those feel a little bit bigger, and that's because Roshan has moved and they had more space to kind of like clump things together here. Again, we will talk about that in a moment. So let's just start walking around the map. I think that's the best way to start. So we come out of our base here, come in over here, and you can see there is a camp here. So this is a hard camp that we can farm. Then we have a medium camp over here, and then we have another hard camp right here. This area has a name. There are 4 new named areas on the map. This one in particular is named the Well. The Well gives us bonus mana regeneration. Every one of these 4 new named areas comes with a buff that they will provide us with that will just kind of give us a little bit of additional resources to farm the area with. This area is fairly big. It extends all the way over here. So just about here, and then we leave it. There you go. So it's fairly large. However, this does not reach all the way to the tier 1 tower. So you can't just easily fall back here to restore your mana if that's what you're planning to do. However, if we continue on a little bit, you can see there are additional creep camps here. There's a medium camp right here, and then there's an easy camp right over here. And these are very much accessible through this through this tier 1 tower. Right? It's right here, very easily accessible. You can also see there's an outpost here. Outposts have changed. They no longer give gold, they no longer give experience, and they no longer give vision. Instead, they are purely there so you can teleport to them. That's all they do. They're just teleport spots. The outposts have moved ever so slightly from their original position, and there's an additional outpost on each side of the map now. Now let's have a look at this right here. This is one of my new favorite things. This is the Twin Gate. We can activate the Twin Gate by clicking on it. Then our hero will channel, and this will teleport us over to the other side of the map immediately. You can see I can do the same thing here, and it will teleport us over to the other side of the map. These right here are just in the corners, and you can use them to transport yourself between lanes very, very easily. Particularly because they're also very close to the lane. So you can see I can just run in here and I'm immediately in the top lane. And the same thing is true on the other side of the map. I can just activate this, teleport down here, and immediately come in to either back up my team or gank. Further in this corner, we have got Roshan. Roshan now has 2 pits, no longer just one. One of them is in the bottom right corner over here, and one of them is in the top left corner over there. Roshan will move between these 2 pits every 5 minutes, which is also the same timer that is used for the day and night cycle. So during the day, Roshan is on the Radiant side, and during the night, he's on the Dire side. Now here's what's very funny. I love this. I think this is very amusing. So I really wanted to show it off. But Roshan doesn't just teleport over to the other side of the map when the timer hits. Instead, Roshan hangs out here and he chills and he will leave you alone. But then he literally starts walking over there. He will bonk into you if you run into him. And he will actively use one of these teleporters to warp himself over to the other side of the map. And then he will walk into his arena where he now sits. So I find that very amusing that he will actually walk over to the other side of the map. You do need to be careful with this because when he bonks into you, he does do damage. So just something to keep in mind there. This right here is what's called a watcher. There are many watchers on the map, like a whole bunch of watchers on the map. They are scattered all around. So there's a watcher, there's a watcher. They are the white spots on the minimap. A watcher, when activated, will give you vision. So you can see the watcher is activated, it highlights an area, and if I leave now, I continue having vision and I can see that the Nyx Assassin is here. However, opponents can deactivate your watchers. So this Nyx Assassin can come in here, channel on this, and this will deactivate the watcher. Now, very importantly, the watcher is not stolen. So the Nyx Assassin doesn't get vision himself. The Dire now doesn't have access to the watcher. Instead, the watcher has turned off for a few minutes and it can no longer be used. It is just disabled now. We'll talk about the watchers in a bit more detail in a moment. Over here, we've got what's called the Lotus pool. The Lotus pool will generate these Lotus flowers every 3 minutes. We can come in here and click on it to gather them. So you can see I now have Lotus flowers in my inventory. These healing Lotuses can be activated to heal health and mana. So you can see instantly restores 125 health and mana and has a range of 400. So I can potentially use it on a teammate. No, I can only use it on myself. Can I, like if I hold control, there we go. Yeah, I gotta hold control and then I can use it on a teammate. There you go. So this is just a little burst of healing that you can use. There are 2 of these Lotus pools on the map. There's one right here and then there's another one all the way over there. Both teams can gather from them, so you want to be a bit aware of that. Every 3 minutes, same timing as bounty runes. Then we can continue on over here. There's this little bridge which will bring us into this side of the map, and this is one of the new farming areas. So this is called the Graveyard. The Graveyard doesn't currently have a working tooltip, but it does give us +5 damage. So if I drop my Divine Rapier, you can see I have +5 damage while I'm in the Graveyard. There is an Ancient stack over here. Then we have what's called a Wisdom rune. Wisdom runes will spawn in dedicated Wisdom rune spots, and they spawn every 7 minutes. So there's one over here, and then there's another one over there. We'll have a look at that in a moment. When you pick up a Wisdom rune, you get bonus experience. That's it, just some bonus experience. It's honestly quite a lot, like 280 for the first one, 560 for the second one. It's just 280 for each of them. Again, every 7 minutes. It's a lot of experience that you get from these, and particularly if you can manage to snipe both of them. Here we have another watcher. Now, if I come in here and I take myself this watcher, you can see I have vision in this area now, which is incredibly useful. And I can just leave this guy there. But there is a secondary way to activate watchers as well. And that is one of the things that I want to show you in just a moment. However, until then, we will take a look at this little door. So both sides of the map have a door now that is kind of this back alley entry. We've got one over here, the Radiant one, and one over here, the Dire one. I can't enter this because I am from the Radiant side of the map, right? I'm a Radiant hero, I can't enter. I can blink past it, and if I had flying movement, I would be able to walk across it, but I can't enter. I can, however, use the door on the Radiant side just fine. So I can leave in and out, not a problem whatsoever. The same thing is true for the Dire, right? They can use their door, but I can't use, but they can use ours. So we'll come in over here. So Roshan is coming up. I'm going to go ahead and try to kill Roshan now. Alright, we want to wait just a tad little bit because I want to show you something funny. But here's Roshan and we want to go ahead and take him down. Activate this stuff. We do a good amount of damage and you know what, we're making good progress here, right? Like, we're working away at Roshan. Got him pretty low. Very good. Oh, no, action is happening. Maybe a fight. We need to be careful. Don't want to... And, oh, wait, 10 minutes. Oh, dear. Oh, God, okay. So he just leaves in the middle of a fight. That is very important to remember here. Roshan will just dip right in the middle of a fight if the 10-minute mark hits, or the 15-minute or 20, just every 5 minutes. So you need to be careful with your Roshan timings. You don't want to start a Roshan attempt when the clock is at an awkward spot, because he will just leave right in the middle of it and fuck right off. Now, when you kill Roshan, you get the edges, of course, but there's a secondary new effect, and that is you get vision on all of the watchers. Every watcher on the map becomes active for your team. So that immediately gives you just a huge amount of vision on the entire map and lets you see what's going on. So that's a very big deal and makes Roshan even more valuable. However, in one way, Roshan has actually become less valuable because Roshan no longer drops Aghanim's shard on his second death. Instead, he drops cheese. Roshan just generally doesn't drop Aghanim's shard anymore. His third death still has either the refresher shard or the the consumable Aghanim scepter. However, it's no longer random, and instead it depends on his location. If he is on the Radiant side, he will have the consumable Aghanim scepter, and if he's on the Dire side, he will have the refresher shard. So you need to be aware of that, and you can maybe even, time it so that you get the upgrade that you want. All right, cool. So that's kind of like the outskirts, this side of the map at the very least. I'm going to go ahead and gather myself another Lotus flower right here, if you don't mind. Because there we go, we've got 2 of them available now, so I will gather one and gather a second, and you can see it has upgraded into the Great Healing Lotus. So when you have 3 Healing Lotuses, they will combine into a Great Healing Lotus. The Great Healing Lotus is much more powerful, so that's quite handy. Come in here, and now let's explore this from the Radiant side. So we start on our side of the map, we can leave through this back door, walk around here. There's a Tormentor, we will talk about that later. Then we've got a Wisdom Rune, very handy, very useful. And we are now in the Statues area. The Statues area gives us +2 armor while we're inside of it. The Statues area also has this Ancient Camp here. I have to say, personally, I think the Radiant side got the better deal here, because the Radiant side gets armor and mana regen for their farming areas, which is incredibly valuable. We go across here, and we end up next to this other Lotus pool, which I will use and gather myself some Lotuses. And you can see, now I have a Greater Healing Lotus. So if you gather up a total of 6 Healing Lotuses, you get a Greater Healing Lotuses, because 2 Great Healing Lotuses combine into an even bigger Healing Lotus. This one restores 900 health and mana, which is quite a lot. That's quite a lot. It's a very significant amount. Here we have Roshan. Something you may already have noticed is that the Roshan area is on a low ground. That's very important to remember, right? There's a bit of a jungle area for fighting here as well, but the fact that it is on a low ground means it's much more difficult to actually go for it. Roshan is much riskier now because your opponents inherently have an advantage. The same thing is true over here. You can see this is also a low ground area, so you need to be very careful there. We walk past this, end up over here, and this is where we are next to the tier 1 tower. Then we have a medium camp and an easy camp, and then finally we enter the last of the new farming areas. This right here is called the mines, and the mines give us 4 health regeneration. The mines are set up pretty much exactly like the well, even with the little water feature here. We've got a hard camp, a medium camp, and then another hard camp over here. 12 new neutral camps. That's an enormous amount. That's a huge amount of new neutral camps. Lots of them very valuable, even two new ancient camps. So this has really changed Dota fundamentally. right? Because there's just so much more space on the map to farm now. Just incredible amounts of resources available now that weren't available beforehand. Let's have a look at the actual center area though. I want to start by showing you the dire side of the map because it's a bit more fresh. First, we have got the dire mid lane. The dire mid lane has changed quite a lot. As you can see, this is the lane as we walk it down. But then over here, there's now just a jungle. All right, there's just a jungle area. There's a hard camp right here. And then we come in over here and there's a medium camp. There's a ward spot. It's very open, very accessible. Then we enter into this high ground area with the outpost, which again doesn't give vision anymore. So here we have that. Doesn't give true sight either. But there we have another hard camp, another ward spot, the bounty rune spot. Then here's another medium camp. And then finally, we've got this low ground area for the last bits of the jungle with an easy camp and another hard camp. This rock right here always trips me up. I always think that you can't walk across it, but you totally can. I don't know why this rock is here. It feels like a mistake. Genuinely, this feels like they just accidentally put a rock there. But yeah, you can totally walk across this. I don't know why this is here. But yeah, so this is kind of the dire side of the jungle. You can see it's changed quite a lot. It is nowhere near as accessible as it was before. Particularly this right here is much more difficult to use as this camp, you want to farm this and then come in over here, of course, but you don't have vision until you walk all the way across. So it's quite difficult to pull these two camps at the same time. It might be possible, but it'll definitely be a bit tricky. You can also see that there's now this space here where you can kind of ignore the jungle space if you want. You can just walk across it, right? And of course, since Roshan is no longer here, this area is much denser. So there's no big open space here anymore. Then we go into the Radiant side a little bit. This triangle area is unchanged. It's really the same as before. Honestly, I don't have a problem with that. I like this area. This is a nice area on the map. Then we come into the center here and you can see that we now enter this high ground where there is a camp over here all the way tucked into the corner. Then we have a camp over here again, which is a bit more accessible from the mid lane. And then finally we come in over to this side where there's a medium camp. These two are fairly close to each other, but still limited in their vision, right? So that seems to be the new thing, is that the vision is quite limited. Then we come in over here, go down into the slow ground area, bounty runes, and then a few more creep camps just to close out the Radiant jungle. Finally, let's have a look at this last triangle area, but this has also largely remained unchanged with the hard camp and the ancient camp, of course. So, that is how the map looks like now. Honestly, some drastic changes if it comes to the main jungle areas and of course these outskirts, but the triangle areas have remained mostly the same. Okay, perfect. Cool. We've got the important things figured out. Let me go ahead and come over here and pick up some more lotuses. We're going to need these for later. I've got a bit of a surprise plan for you all. Just be ready for that. I'll go ahead and gather up some more lotuses. So you can see we now have another great healing lotus, and we're one healing lotus away from getting the greater healing lotus. But yes, the big map, of course, means that there's a lot more space to do stuff on. And I think that's really kind of the theme of the map. With every new Dota patch, there are always people comparing Dota to League. They always say, oh, we are League now. Oh, we are League now. This is not League. And anybody that tells you this is League doesn't know anything about League. What this is Heroes of the Storm. This is a map full of tiny objectives, right? You have your little watches that you want to capture. You have your lotus flowers that you want to gather. You've got your wisdom runes. You've got your bounty runes. You've got your power-up runes. You've got your... we'll get to these in a moment. But you can see there's just so many different things around here now. The creep camps, everything. There's just stuff to do. You've got these warp teleporters here, the twin gates that will just warp you around the map. Yes, it is Heroes of the Storm. It is Angel Arena. Dota has really shifted away from what it once was, and it has turned into much more of this arena-based game, where it's no longer so much about playing objectives on the map in terms of pushing, but more playing objectives on the map in terms of there's a bunch of stuff on the map, go get it. I'm not saying that that's bad. I actually quite like that, but we'll talk about my opinion later on. Hey, Egg Baby, thanks for the Twitch Prime. This right here is a Tormentor. Tormentors are these big-ass cubes. They don't fight back, and most of their health is a shield. So you can see this is what this yellow bar is on top of your health bar now. There are a variety of different shielding effects that were classified as such, and even some new ones introduced with this patch, and shields are now shown separate to your health bar. Now, you're already familiar with shields. Abaddon's Aphotic Shield, for example, is a shield. Pipe of Insight is a shield. So you're familiar with these effects. They have existed before. They have now just been classified properly and been given a proper visual. This Tormentor right here will spawn at 20 minutes, and it will respawn every 10 minutes after you kill it. The Tormentor will give a small bounty of gold, and also will give the lowest net worth hero, or well, one of the two lowest net worth heroes on your team, an Aghanim's Shard that will instantly be consumed. That's what's different here, is that the Aghanim's Shard cannot be shared. It's just given into the inventory and immediately consumed. So it will specifically give resources to the weakest hero on your team. You can see I am fairly strong with my Marcy, of course, but I have these two Nyxes that have got nothing. I will now kill the Tormentor, and then you will see that one of the Nyxes will be given the Aghanim's Shard. Now, the Tormentor doesn't fight back, and it doesn't aggro, as you can see. I can attack it, and this will drain its health, but it will also drain mine. That's because the Tormentor basically works like Spectre. It has a reflection effect. It reflects a large portion of the damage that you deal. Actually, it works like Blade Mail, apologies. So it makes you take the damage that you deal to it. It is fairly strong. I am going to solo it here, but in your normal games, you really want to bring some teammates, because otherwise it could be problematic. The Tormentor also restores its health or its shield fairly quickly. As you can see, it recovers it at a fairly rapid rate. Alright, time to kill it then. Alright, so we'll take this down. There we go, you can see we got 250 gold, it goes away, and now one of our two Nyxes, this one, has an Aghanim's Shard. There are two Tormentors on the map though, and yes, you can steal the Tormentor from your opponents. So you don't have to use the Tormentor you don't have to only use the Tormentor that's on your side of the map. You can go over to your opponent's side and steal theirs. Of course, this is very difficult as it is right around the corner, but it is still possible, right? It's right next to the base, but if you can sneak in, you can take it. Now, the Tormentor, you can see this one gave the Aghanim's Shard to me, because again, it's a 50-50 chance between your lowest net worth heroes, right? And since right now, I am one of the two lowest net worth heroes, and this Nyx Assassin is the other, I got it despite me having drastically more money. So that's kind of funny. Alright, we'll go ahead and move in over here. Pick up another Lotus Petal, so now we have two greater healing Lotuses. Let's check if Roshan is back. There is Roshan, fantastic. We're gonna go ahead and kill him. Don't worry about it, this is for something later. We just need to take the friend down really quick. There's a few things left that I would like to cover. We've got new items in Dota, a variety of new items. I don't know how good they are necessarily going to be. I'm not going to make too many statements on that, but just know there is a variety of new items, and I will explain them to you. So let's head back to the base. Let me go ahead and drop my stuff over here. We're going to need this later. But right now I need the inventory space. So first, we've got the Phylactery. This builds out of a point booster, out of a diadem, and out of a recipe. Now the diadem is one of the new items here, right? It gives +6 all attributes, just 1000 gold. It's just a component piece. It doesn't really do anything interesting. The Phylactery empowers our next spell and makes it deal bonus damage as well as applying a slow. It only works on targeted abilities. So let me go ahead and just buy these 2 bits right here, and then we can go to the secret shop and pick this up. There we go. It will only work on targeted abilities, but it does work on targeted abilities. So I throw this here, and you can see it did some damage there. Alright, just kind of does some extra damage. However, I currently have what the fuck mode enabled, so if I un-WTF this, you can see that now it's got a 6-second cooldown, and that's just kind of something to keep in mind. It doesn't work on everything. As you can see, rebound doesn't trigger it. Not entirely sure why, but hey, there you go, we just throw you. But it just does a bit of extra damage, applies a slow. It's particularly useful for heroes like Tinker, because, you know, you can refresh it and then just shoot over and over again. Let's get rid of this. Then we've got a harpoon here, we will save this. And we've got, yeah, I need, for the disperser, I'm gonna need a demon edge. So let's go ahead and make our way back to the base. Disperser is a new item that builds out of a diffuser blade and out of a demon edge. It just has the combined stats, so nothing too crazy there, with a slight boost, right? But it's fine. What this does, though, is it has an active component. We can use it on an enemy to apply a powerful slow to them. Does not purge, very important, is not a dispel, just a powerful slow. But the slow sure is powerful. It's a very good effect that just kind of keeps opponents from running away. It also can be used on allies to give them a speed boost as well as dispelling negative effects. So with this, we do actually get a purge. All right, so we can go ahead and just use this to run around, which is very useful. It also retains all of its diffuser blade benefits. This is an item that mostly exists to give Diffuser Blade an upgrade, but Diffuser Blade, of course, is a fantastic item, and giving it an upgrade is quite handy. Then we've got the Harpoon. The Harpoon builds out of an Echo Saber, a Diadem, and a Recipe. The Harpoon is an active item that we can use on an opponent to close the distance between us. So you can see it will shoot us right next to our opponent and pull them in as well. This depends a bit. If you're using a ranged hero, it won't pull you all the way, but on melee heroes, it will pull you right next to the target. It also maintains its Echo Saber properties, which is very useful, and of course, it gives good stats. The Harpoon is an item that is very similar to the Disperser, where mostly its main benefit is just it builds out of a really good basic item. Right? You might compare this to Echo Saber from 1x6 if you're familiar with that. And yes, it's similar, but let me just say this. It's much worse because its range is quite low. Like Harpoon just does not have that much range. If you're this close to an opponent, you can usually already close the distance. But it's not bad. I'm not gonna say that. It's a very useful tool to have, particularly because it allows you to keep Echo Saber later into the game. Then as our final new item, we've got a bit of a smaller one, and that is, our final new upgrade, apologies. And that is the Pavisia, which this is fairly simple. We do need to go back to the secret shop. It builds out of a fluffy hat, a recipe, a ring of protection, and then finally out of a void stone. It gives us some nice stats, most notably it gives us armor, mana, regen, and health, which is great. Every hero likes that. And what it also does is it has an active component that we can use to give an ally a shield that blocks 300 physical damage. This is an excellent ability. I don't know how else to put it. It's just super good, super useful. Doesn't have a high mana cost, relatively low cooldown, pretty decent duration, very high cast range. This is just something that is incredibly useful in a lot of circumstances if you can find the money for it. But 1400 gold isn't really that much. Then let's have a look at some of the basics. We have the cornucopia, which is a new item added, just gives some health and mana regen, and it builds into a variety of different things. And then the diadem. But most importantly, we have a blood grenade. Blood grenade is a new item that comes with a set number of charges. You can't stack it, it's just in your inventory. It gives you 50 health, and it has an active that will consume it. Consuming it costs 75 HP, so it actually does a good amount of damage to you. But when you consume it, you throw it, and it deals damage in an AoE, as well as applying a slow and an additional damage over time effect. So I just kind of like throw it, and you can see it does a good amount here. Hey, James Suri, thank you so much for the 4 months. Appreciate it. So it's a really useful tool just for applying harassment, for ganking, for early pressure. This is an item that will be used to gank in the early game. It doesn't serve much purpose outside of that, but it will be very, very good at that. So just be ready for this. The Blood Grenade is going to be an item that will eventually be good. I'm not sure if it's good right now, right? They might need to buff it a bit more, but yeah. It's something that's meant to encourage early aggression. Okay, we've got some small changes to Dust of Appearance. Dust of Appearance works a little bit differently now, where if we cast it, it just leaves an area. So you can see this area is where the dust is now. Works a bit like a Sentry Ward. This dust applies with a bit of a linger effect on the targets that we cast it on. So you can see the Nyx Assassin just left the area and still has dust on him. And it also applies when our opponents enter the area. So if we have the Nyx Assassin leave, you can see that the dust is going to run out in a moment. And then when it enters, the dust is reapplied. Works a bit differently than before, but definitely better. It's definitely an upgrade. Okay. So that's the items. That's the map. Let me show you something that's maybe a bit more fun. We're gonna need these. So I have 2 greater healing lotuses now. Oh, I hope the fact that I have a stack of 2 doesn't ruin what I was planning to do, but we'll see. We'll come in here. I'm gonna go ahead and gather myself some more lotuses. So now I have a great healing lotus in my inventory as well as another healing lotus. Coming over here, thank you very much. Activate this, and there we go. So I don't need you. If you have 3 greater healing lotuses and cheese, they will combine into this block of cheese, which has a use scrumptious, and it just says, try me. It doesn't say anything else, that's just it, just try me. What does this item do? Well, it's a very, very unique item. Let me turn off what the fuck mode. And let's cast this on ourselves. This item gives us a permanent buff. This buff does not go away. It will be with us for the rest of the game. Even if we die, it continues to apply. And what it does is it gives us a shield, a 500 health shield that will block all damage and regenerates at a fairly rapid rate. So you can see right here, these creeps can't do damage to me anymore. I can also go to a tower, and you can see the tower really struggles to deal damage to me. However, if attacked by a hero, this regeneration will slow down. So you can see now the regeneration has turned off, and I will be taking more sustained damage. However, as soon as the hero stops attacking me, this will start regenerating again after a brief moment, and now we don't really take damage anymore. This is a game-breakingly powerful effect, right? This is incredible. This is super, 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 super good. I don't know if you will ever see this in a real game, because it does require you to get 18 lotuses, right? You need 3 lotuses for a greater healing lotus, a great healing lotus, and then you need 2 great healing lotuses for a greater healing lotus, and you need 3 greater healing lotuses and a cheese to get the item. But once you have it, you can make one of your heroes just permanently overpowered. It is a bit silly. However, it is quite good if it comes to like dealing with anything that isn't a hero. I mean, like, just look at it. I can just sit here and tank this. I mean, it is a little wild, right? It is incredibly, incredibly powerful. I am surprised that this exists. I'm not sure if this is gonna be in tournaments, to be honest, but it might be because it's just a cool thing. And this is where we kind of come to the general theme of this patch. It feels to me like they just did some cool stuff, and I like that. One more final thing before we conclude the video. there's a new attribute. Strength, agility, intelligence, and universal. Now, I actually think thinking about universal as a new attribute is not the most useful way to think about them. Instead, I would think about them as heroes that don't have a primary attribute. These heroes, including Marcy, that's why we're playing Marcy, these heroes do not benefit from any attribute more than from any other ones. Instead, they get their base damage from all their stats combined and then 60% of that. Generally speaking, these heroes build up attack damage faster than a normal hero would. Hey, Rafu Aero, thanks for the 5 months. These heroes build up attack damage faster than a normal hero would. So our Marcy here will be able to do more damage than, for example, Crystal Maiden, right? Just because we are benefiting from all of our stats. Now, these heroes have also had their stats reduced. So across the board, their stats are just lower. There's just a thing now, right? Pretty much all of them have kind of shit stats now. So that's something worth keeping in mind there. This universal attribute thing is kind of weird. I'm not entirely sure why they did it. And I find their selection to be a little bit odd. For example, if we have a look at the universal attribute, you can see there's a lot of summoners in there, like Beastmaster, Brewmaster, Lone Druid, Lycan. And that kind of makes sense to me, right? Enigma, Chen, Venomancer. Cool. Summoners. Great. But then some just aren't in there, like Nature's Prophet. He's still an int hero, right? He hasn't moved. Not entirely sure why. Or, more crucially, there is Meepo, who is still an agility hero. So that seems just a tad little bit odd to me. I don't know how they chose the characters that went into Universal. It does feel, again, a little bit arbitrary. But they just kind of chose something, right? So we have summon-based stuff. Then we have purple men, I guess. But not all of them. I mean, Ricky is still over here. But yeah, I don't know. Heroes that don't really fit into an attribute, like Io, okay, I see that. Enigma, maybe. Bane, for sure. But again, there are some that I don't really understand why they aren't universal, and some that I don't understand why they are universal. Like, as far as I'm concerned, I don't see Mirana as being a hero in here. That's odd. And as I already said, I mentioned Meepo, I feel like should definitely be in there. But even setting Meepo aside, I'm not entirely sure how a hero like for example, Necrophos didn't make the cut. Right? I feel like Necrophos would fit. I don't know. But that's just my opinion. Ultimately, now you know this exists. So, what is my opinion on the patch as a whole? Well. I think two thoughts. And these may be a little contradictory at first glance. So, please give me a moment to explain. I think this patch, as far as I'm concerned, has killed Dota. Dota is dead. Also, I really like this patch, and it might genuinely make me play Dota again. Now, as I already said, these may seem like weird, contradicting thoughts. When I say Dota is dead, I mean the old Dota. So I watch a lot of old Dota for my research. And I would classify Dota into different eras. There is Dota All-Stars, which is Warcraft 3 Dota, which I would say goes up to and including TI4. That's old Dota. Then from TI4 to TI6, I think that's Dota 2. Then from TI7 to TI9, that is 7.0, that is Dota 3. And from TI10 onwards until now, we are in Dota 4. We are in the modern era of Dota that is more Heroes of the Storm-like, that is more Angel Arena-like than Dota used to be. Now, up to this patch, up to this point, I have been kind of holding on to hope that we will eventually go back to Dota 3, to the 7.0 era of Dota. TI 7, TI 8, TI 9. I liked that Dota. I think, as far as Dota is concerned, that is my favorite Dota. But this patch clearly shows me that there is no intention to go back to that, as there has been zero effort made to actually encourage pushing and base play more than before. In fact, not a single goddamn change was made to the actual reward structure of bounties, the reward structure of towers and structures. Like, it just hasn't been updated. Heroes have had their bounties adjusted, creeps have had their bounties adjusted, new creeps were added, new runes were added, all of that stuff, yes. But not a thought spared for barracks, not a thought spared for towers. They are just another game piece. They are not the primary objective anymore. And I don't think we will ever go back to that. But to me, that allows me a bit of a clean cut. That allows me the opportunity to say, okay, well, if Dota is just gonna be a bunch of bounty runes and a bunch of Roshan kills, well, then I think we're on the right path. Then I think, let's just have some fun with this. And I like how weird this patch is. I like how strange it is. I like how they are just doing weird things with it. And for that, I appreciate it. So Dota isn't Dota anymore, and Dota will never go back to being Dota. But at the same time, I feel like, to me personally, this patch has given me the opportunity to let go of the old Dota and embrace the new one. Dota's dead, long live Dota. That's how I view it. Will I play normal Dota now? Not sure yet. Seems stressful. But I will definitely give it a try. We might do it for a few streams and see how I feel about it. But yeah, that's that. So I hope this was helpful. It is still fairly long. Apologies for that. But there was a lot to cover. I tried to go through all of the important things that you need to know. And again, if you want to have the specific hero reviews, I recommend some other channels, particularly Purge. He always does a good job with it. And yeah, I guess that's that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget. Oh my god, I forgot neutral items. I did forget neutral items, dear god. Thank you so much. I almost forgot about that. Yes, very good. Neutral items. Apologies, I did miss something. So I don't think this is crucially important. This is just more of a quality of life feature. But when you kill a creep now and you get a neutral drop from it, you no longer just get a neutral drop. Instead, you get this token which you can activate, which you can then choose one of 5 neutral items that are then bound to your hero. So I cannot share this penta-edged sword, that's just mine. But that's really it. Other than that, neutral items are pretty much the same as before. This is just a minor quality of life upgrade that makes it so you no longer have to give all of the best neutral items to the carries. Instead, you can choose whatever neutral item you want that is right for your hero. Okay. Alright, and with that, I think we can conclude the video. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.